Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. So as we were discussing about the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland in the last video, we have discussed about the anterior pituitary and also we have seen how the hypothalamus influences the secretion of hormones by the pituitary gland. Okay, so in this particular video we shall consider the posterior pituitary. Okay, so as we have seen that there are two lobes into which this gland is divided into, anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary. So smaller portion it comprises of the posterior pituitary, which is located on the posterior aspects, and we have seen that this posterior pituitary, it is also known as posterior lobe or it is also known as neurohypophysis. Neuro means nerve and hypophysis means undergrowth. The anterior pituitary, it was known as adenohypophysis, which is actually made up of epithelial tissue and it itself can synthesize the hormones, right? Anterior pituitary. We have seen that 5 different types of cells produce 7 different types of hormones. Okay, but that is not the case with the posterior pituitary. Actually, this particular lobe does not synthesize any hormone, but it stores and releases 2 hormones. Okay, now from where these hormones come? Actually, this lobe is supplied by the axons and the axon terminals of the hypothalamic neurosecretory cells. Remember the neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus. Okay, these also produce the releasing and inhibiting hormones which are controlling the anterior pituitary gland secretion, right? So these neurosecretory cells, okay, it comprises of the cell bodies. So they are axons. They actually made up most of this posterior pituitary. Okay, so it actually comprises of more than 10,000 axons and axon terminals of the hypothalamic neurosecretory cells. Okay, so it is not made up of any epithelial tissue, but it mainly comprises of the nervous tissue. Okay, now let us see which are these neurosecretory cells which are responsible for production of the hormones for the posterior pituitary. Okay, so if you all can recall this particular figure, it belongs to the central nervous system, which actually depicts the different regions of the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is nothing but it is comprised of a number of nuclei, right? Nuclei within the central nervous system. What do you mean by a nucleus? Yes, it is the mass of the cell bodies, right, which is present in the hypothalamus. So all these are different nuclei. We have seen what exactly is their role. So this is divided into 4 different regions. One of them is the supraoptic region, okay, which comprises of these nuclei. So out of these nuclei, the 2 nuclei are actually functioning as these neurosecretory cells. So it is the cell bodies which are present in these paraventricular nucleus and the supraoptic nucleus, which is actually responsible for production of the hormones. Okay, so they are axons, the axons of the cell bodies which are present in these 2 nuclei. Nuclei comprises of the cell bodies, right? It is a group of cell bodies. So they are axons. They actually descend downwards into the posterior pituitary. So as the axons of these cell bodies which are present in these 2 nuclei, they descend in the form of a group of axons, right? So that is known as a tract, right? So group of axons in the CNS, it is known as a tract, right? So it is known as the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. Remember the names of the tract, it is based on from where it is originating and where it is ending, right? So it is known as hypothalamo, means it is beginning from in the hypothalamus and it is supplying to the hypophysis, that is your pituitary gland. So it is known as hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. Okay, so this tract, it will begin from these two nuclei. As you can see, these act as the neurosecretory cells. So these are the cell bodies, as you can see over here. Okay, so from here will originate their axons. So these axons collectively, these are known as the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. So the tract, it actually begins in these nuclei within the hypothalamus and it ends into the posterior pituitary near the capillary network. The posterior pituitary also has a capillary network. Just like in case of anterior pituitary, we have seen the portal system which is present, there are two capillary networks, right? But here there is only one capillary network. So these hormones, okay, there are two hormones which are produced, right? So the neuronal cell bodies in the paraventricular nucleus, that is this one, will produce the hormone oxytocin. OT is the accepted short form. Okitok means quick birth, okay, because it is involved in the childbirth. This name was suggested for this particular hormone. And the neuronal cell bodies of the second nucleus, that is the supraoptic nucleus, this is the one. Okay, so this will produce another hormone known as antidiuretic hormone or ADH, or it is also known as vasopressin. So these are the two hormones which are synthesized by the two different nuclei of the hypothalamus. Oxytocin is produced by the paraventricular nucleus and the supraoptic nucleus, it synthesizes the ADH. Okay, now these axon terminals in the pituitary, okay, which will actually carry these hormones, these are also associated with a specialized neuroglia. Remember the neuroglia, which is a supporting tissue. So the neuroglia within these posterior pituitary lobe, it is known as pituiticites. Okay, so just like the asterocytes, which is one of the neuroglia, it also have the supporting role. Okay. Now once the hormone is synthesized in these two nuclei, okay, both these hormones, the oxytocin and the antidiuretic hormone, they are packed into secretory vesicles, and these vesicles, they will descend down towards the posterior pituitary. Okay. So this axon will carry these vesicles into which both these hormones are packed, and they will be stored in the axon terminals. Remember the neurotransmitter, that is also packed in the vesicles, right, and it is stored in the axon terminals, and it is released as and when required. Whenever this neuron is stimulated, there is a release of the stored neurotransmitter. So similarly, these hormones are also stored in the axon terminals in the posterior pituitary. Okay, actually the posterior pituitary is not synthesizing it. What is synthesizing? The hypothalamus. So it will be packed into the vesicles and it will be stored into the axon terminals in the posterior pituitary. And whenever a nerve impulse, it triggers this particular stimulation of this particular neurons, it will result in the exocytosis. So these vesicles which contain the stored hormones, by the process of exocytosis, it will release the hormone. Okay, so it will release the hormone in the vicinity of these capillaries. Okay, now let us see what is that capillary network of the posterior pituitary, how it is formed, what it is known like. Just like in case of anterior pituitary, there is a capillary network in case of posterior pituitary also. but the difference is that there is only one network, as you can see over here. In case of anterior pituitary, what we have seen, it's a portal system, right? That means there are two capillary networks. Superior hypophyseal artery, it divides into first capillary network, that is primary plexus of hypophyseal portal system. It then drains into hypophyseal portal vein. Then it drains into another capillary network, that is secondary plexus of the hypophyseal portal system, correct? And from here it will be carried away through this particular vein, that is the anterior hypophyseal vein. But this is not the arrangement in case of posterior pituitary. As you can see that it is supplied by an artery known as inferior hypophyseal artery. Okay, see, just correlate the names. It is superior hypophyseal artery which is supplying the anterior lobe, whereas it is the inferior hypophyseal artery which is a branch of internal carotid artery which is supplying to your posterior lobe. Okay. Now, into the posterior pituitary, this artery will give rise to a capillary network, and that is known as capillary plexus of infundibular process. So, this is the name of the capillary network in the posterior pituitary. Now, this is not a portal system. It will not give rise to any other capillary, unlike the anterior pituitary. Okay, so this capillary network then will unite to form a vein, and that is posterior hypophyseal vein. Okay, in anterior lobe it was anterior hypophyseal vein, and in case of posterior lobe it is posterior hypophyseal vein into which the blood will drain. Okay, so hormone which is produced by the hypothalamus, it will be carried towards the axon terminals in the posterior lobe, and in the vicinity of these capillaries will be released the hormones. So, it then will be taken up by these capillaries, and through this vein it will be taken throughout the body. It will reach throughout the body. Now, because of this arrangement, okay, as you can see that the arrangement, is there any supply from the hypothalamus to the posterior pituitary? No. That means the secretion of the posterior pituitary is not under the control of the hypothalamus. There is no releasing or inhibiting hormone in case of the posterior pituitary. We have seen in case of anterior pituitary there are so many releasing hormone, inhibiting hormone which are released by the hypothalamus. So, they will enter in this capillary and then they will move to this capillary, and it will act on the anterior pituitary. So, such kind of arrangement is not seen over here. So, blood will be supplied by the heart, it will be divided into a capillary network, hormone will be taken up, and then the blood will move throughout the body. Okay. Now, coming to the hormones which are secreted by the posterior pituitary. Actually, it is only secreted, it is not producing these hormones. Okay. So, the first hormone is oxytocin. Okay, so, oxytocin, it actually plays the role during and after the delivery of a baby. Okay, so, it has two target tissues. Okay. First one is the uterus, the mother's uterus, and the second one is the breast. Okay, so, during the childbirth or during the delivery, the stretching of cervix which takes place. Okay, cervix is the opening. Okay, it is a passageway through which the baby passes from the uterus. So, stretching of this cervix during the childbirth, it stimulates the release of oxytocin. Okay, actually it is the stretching which is stimulating the release of the oxytocin. Actually, the childbirth itself is initiated by the oxytocin. This is a type of positive feedback, right? So, initially some amount will be secreted, it will act on the uterus, and in turn this stimulation of the uterus will cause release of more and more oxytocin. So, that is a positive feedback. Okay. So, this release of oxytocin in turn will enhance the contraction of the smooth muscles which are present in the wall of the uterus. So, that will aid in the childbirth. And the second effect, that is after the delivery, that is after the childbirth has taken place, after the baby is born, it stimulates the milk ejection from the mammary glands. Remember the prolactin hormone from the anterior pituitary, which is secreted by the lectotrophs, it promotes the milk production, right, and milk ejection. So, it along with the other hormones, this was one of the hormone in that list, right. So, along with other hormones, it actually promotes the milk ejection. Okay, so this oxytocin, it acts on the mammary glands to produce the milk ejection. Okay, so the milk will be ejected out from the mammary glands, and this occurs only after the childbirth. Okay, so stimulus for this is the suckling action by the infant. Now, apart from this, in the males or in the non-pregnant females, the role of oxytocin as such is not very clear, but the experiments on the animals, they show that it acts in the brain to produce the fostering or the parental caretaking behavior towards the offspring which is born. Apart from that, it is also responsible for the sexual pleasure during and after the intercourse, sexual intercourse. So, this is the role of oxytocin. And the second hormone, that is antidiuretic hormone or ADH as it is known as. We have already seen what is the function of this ADH. So, as the name implies, antidiuretic, anti means against, di means throughout, and uresis means urination. So, it opposes the urine production, that is, it will decrease the urine production. The amount of urine which is produced, that is reduced, right. We have seen how it is exactly helping in reducing the urine output. Okay, so it acts on the kidneys in such a way that more and more water is reabsorbed. So, it will be brought back to the blood. So, thereby it will decrease the urine output. Okay. Now, in the absence of ADH, a lot of dilute urine will be produced, right. We have seen under the physiology. Okay, so, as much as 20 liters per day urine can be produced. Okay, and effect of this ADH, it can be affected by the alcohol. So, those who consume alcohol, it causes frequent and copious urine, that is a lot of urination, urine output is increased. That is because alcohol can inhibit the secretion of the ADH. So, what will happen? In absence of ADH, what happens? Urine output is increased. So, because of this excessive loss of water, it results in the effects on the alcohol consuming people, hangover which is seen. Okay, so, the hangover can be precipitated due to this inhibition of the secretion of ADH. Okay. Now, apart from this, ADH also decreases the water lost through sweating. Okay, so, sweating is also reduced. Apart from that, it also causes constriction of the arterioles. So, constriction of the arterioles, the diameter decreases. So, what will happen to the blood pressure within these blood vessels? Yes, it will increase. So, it causes increase in the blood pressure. That is why another name of this hormone is vasopressin. Vaso means blood and pressus means to press. Okay, so, it affects the blood pressure. It causes the rise in blood pressure. Okay. Now, let us see how exactly the secretion of the ADH is controlled. Okay, so, the amount of ADH which is produced, it is altered depending upon the blood osmotic pressure and the blood volume. So, these are the two factors which are regulating the release of the ADH. Okay, so, in case if the osmotic pressure is very high of the blood, or if the blood volume is reduced. Now, when this will occur, when the blood osmotic pressure will be high or when will the volume be low, what do you mean by high osmotic pressure of a particular solution? That means what? That the solvent amount is low and the solute content is high. So what is the solvent in your blood? Yes, it is the blood plasma, correct, which comprises mainly of the water. So it contains so many dissolved solutes, right? So when the solute content is high in the blood, when it will occur? When there is low level of water in your blood. So what will happen to your osmotic pressure of the blood? Yes, it will be increased. So similar type of effect will be seen when there is decreased blood volume, right? When the blood volume reduces, it is also one of the control for the release of the ADH. Now when these conditions will occur, if there is dehydration, excessive loss of fluids from the body, or decrease in the blood volume due to hemorrhage, that is excessive blood loss, or diarrhea, or excessive sweating. So all these will stimulate the osmoreceptors. So there are osmoreceptors. So these are the neurons in the hypothalamus which are continuously monitoring the blood osmotic pressure. So when the osmolarity of the blood is increased, it will stimulate these osmoreceptors. Now when these osmoreceptors are stimulated, they will activate the neurosecretory cells in the hypothalamus to synthesize and release more and more ADH. Okay, so more and more ADH will be released over here. Okay, osmoreceptors, they are stimulating these neurosecretory cells to synthesize and release more and more ADH. Now when these neurosecretory cells receive an excitatory input from the osmoreceptors, they will generate a nerve impulse over here. So when a nerve impulse is generated over here, what it will do? It will trigger the release of ADH in the vicinity of the capillaries. So it will be liberated into the blood capillaries in your posterior pituitary. So the capillaries, it will drain it into the vein, and where it will go? It will reach the 3 target tissues. It will reach throughout the body, but it acts on the 3 target tissues, that is the kidneys, the sudoriferous glands or the sweat glands, and the smooth muscles in the blood vessel wall. Now what will be the outcome of this as a result of release of ADH? How they will act on the kidneys? What we have seen already, ADH, in the presence of ADH, what happens to your urine output? It starts conserving more and more water, right? It starts retaining more and more water in the body, so it decreases the urine output. Next target is the sweat glands. What it does to your sweat glands? Yes, the secretions from these sweat glands is also reduced. So as a result of which, it will decrease the loss of water by perspiration from the skin. And the third consequence is on the smooth muscles in the arterioles. So these smooth muscles in the walls of your arterioles, they will contract. So what will happen as a result of this? It will result in constriction of these blood vessels. That is the diameter. This diameter, it will decrease. So what will happen to the blood pressure which is flowing through these arterioles? Yes, it will increase the blood pressure. Okay, so as a result of this, what will happen? All these consequences, the blood volume which was low, it will come back to normal, or the osmolarity which was increased over here, it was high, right? Now what has happened? Water is getting conserved, right? Water, it is conserved by the body. So what will happen to your osmolarity? Fluid content is increasing, the solvent content is increasing. So the osmolarity, it will come back to normal, and the blood volume also will come back to normal. On the contrary, what will happen if the blood osmotic pressure is low, or if there is increase in the blood volume? What will be the consequence? Yes, these osmoreceptors, it will be inhibited. So as a result of the inhibition of the osmoreceptors, what will happen? It will reduce or stop the ADH secretion. So it will send the signal to the hypothalamus to reduce this release of ADH. So as a result of this decrease in the ADH level, what will happen? All these target cells, what will happen? Exactly opposite effects will take place, right? So here what will happen? The urine output, it will increase, right? A larger volume of urine will be secreted. Also the secretory activity of the sweat glands, that will also increase. So again water loss will be promoted. And what will happen to your arterioles? The smooth muscles, it will dilate, right? It will relax. So as a result of this, the arterioles will dilate. Okay, so thus the blood volume and the osmotic pressure, which was low, it will come back to normal. So this is how the secretion of the ADH is controlled. Apart from that, there are certain other ways also, other stimuli, that is the pain, stress, trauma, anxiety, ACH, nicotine, certain drugs like morphine, tranquilizers or some anesthetics, they also stimulate the ADH secretion. Okay. As I have discussed earlier, the dehydrating effect of the alcohol, that's because it inhibits the release of ADH, right? So it will produce the headache and thirst, so which are quite common as a hangover, okay, after an excessive consumption of alcohol. Okay. Apart from that, the hyposecretion of ADH or non-functional ADH receptor, this causes a clinical condition called as diabetes insipidus, wherein decrease in the ADH. So what will happen to the urine output? Hyposecretion. Either the level of this ADH will be low or the receptors on which the ADH act, these are non-functional. So what will happen to the urine output? Yes, the urine output is very high in this particular clinical condition. Okay. To summarize, the two hormones of the posterior pituitary, which are actually released by the posterior pituitary and it is not producing any hormone. So the two hormones which are produced by the neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus, okay, oxytocin, which acts on the uterus, and the mammary glands. Okay. So it will result in stimulation of the smooth muscles of the uterus during the childbirth, so it will aid in childbirth, and also it will result in contraction of the myoepithelial cells in the mammary glands. As a result of this, milk ejection will take place. And the second hormone, that is ADH or vasopressin, it acts on kidneys, sweat glands and arterioles. Okay. So they help in conservation of the water in the body by decreasing the urine output, by decreasing the perspiration. It conserves the water in the body, and also another effect is it raises the blood pressure. That's why it is also known as vasopressin. Okay. So this is to do with the posterior pituitary or the neurohypophysis. So we have seen that two hormones are produced by this particular lobe, that is the oxytocin and ADH. So we have seen in brief what are the different actions and how the secretion of the ADH can be controlled by the osmolarity or the blood volume. Okay. So this is the reference. Thank you for watching.